Live from the financial capital of the galaxy, the New York Stock Exchange. This is Squawk on the Street. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Haynes on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. We're setting up for a pretty good Monday morning. The futures pointing significantly higher. Dow Chemical, a big mover before the bell. Burlington Northern also, and it's the first time, of course, traders get to react to Friday's big jobs report. The big board buzz is coming up.
All right, Mark, we start big here, financial center of the galaxy. Why not? It's a Monday. Good morning, everyone. I'm Erin Burnett. And another reason that it could be a big day, we've got the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P almost back to their pre-February sell-off levels. In fact, the S&P is less or just about 5 points away from topping that level.
And I'm David Faber. Independent power producer Mirant is for sale. Dow Chemical, maybe not. I'll have those stories. First, though, back over to Erin, who has the morning headlines.
All right, David, and let's get straight to those. You're mentioning one of them there. Let's show you futures right now. As Mark said, it does look like we're going to be higher across the board. You could have had some inklings of that. The futures trade through the weekend has indicated that we would see that after that blockbuster jobs number on Friday. We had 180,000 new jobs and an unexpected drop in the unemployment rate. Now, shares of Dow Chemical, David mentioned that. They're on a tear, up about 10%. This on buyout speculation. Keep in mind, there has been a lot of buyout speculation on this name over the past few months as to whether this is any more real than those headlines. No one knows. The stock, though, is higher. $50 billion bid is the latest report out of the Sunday Express. Now, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway disclosing a 10.9% stake in railroad Burlington Northern. And Buffett confirming exclusively to our Liz Clayman that he has $700 million plus stakes in two other railroads. Did not disclose, though, the names of those two companies. Mary Thompson going to have a lot more on that in a moment. A big day for the transports surely in store. American Home Mortgage, you heard Joe just mentioning that one, and it is down about 20% before the bell. So let's get the details on these stories. Mary Thompson is here at the big board at 11T, the home of American Home Mortgage. Morning, Mary.
Good morning, Erin. And American Home Mortgage is likely to be a spoiler in today's session. It is down 21% in the pre-market after the Real Estate Investment Trust said a sharp downturn in the secondary mortgage and mortgage security markets in the first quarter is prompting it to cut its first quarter outlook, its full year outlook, and its dividend as well. Its quarterly dividend trimmed to 70 cents a share from $1.12. All of this despite an upward trend in the futures market this morning, helped, of course, by that stronger than expected jobs report on Friday and all the takeover news that are hitting the headlines or hitting the wires today. Dow Chemical, of course, higher on reports that it could be a candidate for a $50 billion takeout. That is also giving a lift to Lyondell Chemical, this trading in sympathy with Dow Chemical, which is up in the pre-market as well. Of course, the news that Berkshire Hathaway has taken a 10.9% stake in Burlington Northern, as well as two other railroads, is giving a lift to this group today. Keep watch on that. All of this at a time when Burlington Northern is about $2.50 away from its all-time high. Lastly, we want to touch on Morant. The company says that it is exploring strategic alternatives, and it has hired J.P. Morgan as its financial advisor. Now let's head to the NASDAQ and Rebecca Jarvis. Rebecca, good morning.
Thanks. Good morning to you too, Mary. Yes, well, there is a new MP3 player in town. That's thanks to Yahoo and SanDisk in a partnership, and Yahoo is making it accessible via Wi-Fi. Yahoo shares to the upside by 0.6% this morning. SanDisk to the upside by 1.2%, but Apple isn't really taking a hit, at least now in pre-market trading. They're up 0.7% as well. We just got information this morning that 100 million iPods have been sold since the November 2001 release of the iPod. Adobe shares to the upside today. They announced a repurchase program of their stock, 20 million shares, up 1%. And Amgen, it's not reacting really negatively. Their target was cut this morning over at Stifel to 65. And the shares are up 0.1%. Just want to draw your attention to the two most actives here, however. It's Dendrian and Novello. Dendrian shares to the upside by 10.5% in pre-market. Novello to the upside by 17.5%. We've seen a lot of action, a lot of trades to the upside in these shares recently. On that, we're going to head to Sharon Epperson. She's standing by at the NYMEX.
Well, Rebecca, we're seeing oil prices weaker this morning as tensions between Iran and Britain seem to have calmed down a bit since the release of those British sailors last week. But of course, appearances can be deceiving. We are also learning this morning that Iran's nuclear chief is saying that the country is entering the stage of industrial nuclear fuel production. So we'll be keeping our eye on that. Oil prices under $64 here in the U.S. Gasoline futures, though, have risen about 3% in the past week. That is helping to support oil prices, keeping the sell-off from being more severe. Retail gasoline prices at the pump up some 18 cents in the past 2 weeks, according to the Lumberg survey, to $2.79 a gallon for self-serve regular gasoline. We're also watching the gas exporting countries conference in Qatar. We'll bring you more on that at 9:30. Now to Rick Santelli, who's standing by in Chicago. Rick.
Thanks, Sharon. And not only that, people are passing around a paper from the French press, an article saying that Iran today will announce some nuclear developments of historic portions. So everybody, of course, is continuing to look at what that could possibly be. As for the interest rate markets, on Friday they moved up once again in interest rate terms. Right now we have a 2-year note and a 10-year note hovering just about the same yield. If you recall, that distance had widened in behalf of the long maturities or positive carry, but the run-up in rates very quickly towards the end of last week seems to have neutralized that move, at least for the time being, along with the notion, and right hooked into it, well, that strong data Friday really removed much of any anticipation of interest rate cuts anytime soon. Dollar holding on to slight bids, and of course a light data week, but we do have the minutes on Wednesday, and Bank of Japan will announce tomorrow. Today's the first day of their 2-day meeting. Thursday the ECB meets. Central banking is a big issue driving interest rates. Now let's go to Bob O'Brien at HQ.
Thanks very much, Rick. Daimler Chrysler comes into today's trading session at a 6-year high, getting that rally at the end of last week after Kerkorian's Trescinda unveiled its $4.5 billion bid. There is some hesitation that disputes with labor could make any kind of a deal a little more complicated. Sally Mae, SLM, getting the Barron's bounce today. Barron's noting that the congressional exposure has put pressure on the stock, but said the stock at this juncture could be oversold, could be due for a 10% bounce. Citi striking a deal for Taiwanese Bank, the Bank of Overseas China, $426 million price tag on that. U.S. Air projecting that it will see a profit in the first quarter of the year, despite the weather conditions as well as the computer glitch that upset its performance during the quarter. However, it doesn't look like numbers are going to live up to anything close to Wall Street's forecast. And finally, keep an eye on Kroger today. The Wall Street Journal on Friday reporting that the supermarket giant may be the subject of an LBO interest. Let's go back to Mark at the floor of the NYSE. Mark. Thank you very much, Binky. All right, let's check the overseas markets for you. First, the Financial Times CNBC Global 300 Index is down 0.1%. In Paris, they're kind of flat, but in Germany, the DAX is up 0.4%. Japan's Nikkei gained 1.5%. Shanghai Composite up more than 2%. South Korea's Kospi up more than 1%. Hong Kong remains closed for a public holiday. It is now time to get the word on the floor from our pal Art Cashin from UBS. Good morning, Arthur. Good to see you. So it looks like, judging from the futures, that the jobs report was good news for stocks?
Well, I think the futures are telling us stocks are going to open a little bit better, but I'm not sure that's on the jobs report. I mean, the yields on the bonds are the highest they've been in 7 weeks. That's not usually good for stocks. I think what you're seeing here is the Dow Chemical rumor. There's a $12 billion rumor in the brewery industry. They're backing up the Brinks trucks and taking everything private, so that helps the market.
So the jobs report showing stronger than expected growth, because I expected that to be negative. And you think it is, but it's just being overshadowed.
Absolutely. Okay. I think they frightened the bond market. Ordinarily, that'd scare stocks, but not this morning.
Okay. So, does it eventually come home to roost, or can we get past it?
We'll know a lot more because we've got a saloon full of Fed speakers this week. Everybody and their sibling is going to be out talking. So we'll see, including Bernanke, and then you get the Fed minutes. We get to look inside their head, hopefully, and find out what they're thinking.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Have a great week. Art Cashin from UBS. Over to Aaron.
All right, Mark, and we do have some news for everyone on semiconductors. Right now we're hearing from AMD that they are cutting their Q1 revenue forecast to $1.225 billion. They're saying the revenues are going to be down sharply from the fourth quarter. The reason they say lower unit sales volume, sales prices, as well as lower average selling prices. Now, right now it looks as if AMD shares are indicated higher, as well as competitor Intel. Keep in mind, last week we did have chipmaker Micron coming out and warning, which did put pressure on the entire group. Nonetheless, interesting headlines as we talk about capital spending and a rebound in technology. Let's get the buzz from beyond the street now on that front with Mike Malone, equity sales and trading analyst with Cowen and Company. Mike, all right, we had Micron come out last week. Now we have AMD saying revenues are down sharply, their words, from the fourth quarter. How significant are these headlines for a sector which is crucial to the overall market?
Well, I don't think that it is actually terribly important, particularly from the point of AMD. AMD has really been having some troubles recently, I think on a very company-specific basis, and I think Intel has really been very aggressive with regards to taking market share there.
Right.
So I don't view this as being overly important. And I would also point out that, technology, from a fundamental point of view, has really been underperforming for the last couple of quarters. So, clearly the economy has been able to act well and expand, despite the fact that technology has been an underperformer. So I don't view it as being terribly concerning.
All right. Now, what about the jobs number? Interesting, a lot of people had said, well, with a very strong jobs number, we might see stocks sell off because it would take rate cuts off the table. Well, rate cuts appear to be off the table, at least for a little bit of time now, but stocks look like they're going to rally. What do you read into that?
Well, I think that one important thing to take away from the jobs report was that there was not really any wage inflation seen in the jobs report, despite the fact that it came in better than expected. So I think that the issue with regards to better than expected jobs is inflation and potential upward pressure on wage inflation. And I think that as long as that doesn't manifest itself, I think that there's really no reason to be concerned. And I would also add that I don't necessarily think that we need to see a rate cut for the market to continue to work. I think that rates at 5.25% and the 10-year yielding about 4.7% is very accommodative, actually, and can certainly allow for market gains from here.
All right, we like the glass half full. Mike Malone, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, coming up, we've got the Faibel Report, plus an earnings season pregame special. Is it going to be as bad as people are expecting?
And then one market guru who thinks you should take advantage of others' uncertainty and trade hard in hard assets. And do you want to know what the smartest minds on Wall Street are buying and selling? Well, we're going to tell you because we've got the man at the helm of a $7 billion investment group. You have to have $10 million to even play. These guys and gals know what they're doing, and they'll tell us. We'll be back.
You're watching CNBC's Squawk on the Street.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Let's start off this morning with Dow Chemical. You've heard various shows in the morning here talking about these reports out of London. It's a tabloid newspaper reporting of interest by Middle Eastern investors and private equity in a potential purchase of Dow Chemical, and it's moving the stock. This is not even the first time. We've seen this happen before. Again, a UK-based newspaper reporting Dow Chemical might be in play in some way. Here's what I can tell you at this point, which is the following. That if there has been some interest from private equity, people who are representing those private equity interests have told me that they were told in no uncertain terms by Dow Chemical not to bother. The point here is that while there might have been some interest in private equity along the lines of, hey, would they have any interest in potentially talking to us about a buyout? The word that came back before there were even anything close to talks was, no, we're not interested in talking to you. Now, that is from one person who is, let's call it, familiar with the situation in terms of conversations between said private equity, or I should say, aware of interest from private equity in Dow and aware that Dow had no interest. That is what I can add to that today. We'll see. These rumors continue to move the stock in a big way. As for what it's worth, it depends on who you talk to. A lot of people believe the cycle is going to be peaking and moving down significantly. Merrill Lynch looking for example, $2 in earnings per share by 2010. They say the company, some of the parts suggest a value between 45 and 50. Over at Citi, you've got a $43 price target. The average of their two valuation methodologies for Dow Chemical, one being a 14 times multiple to their 08 estimate of $3 a share. So, again, that's what we have at least to share here. I don't know if they have naked people on page 3 of this newspaper, but suffice to say it is a tabloid. All right, let's all move on to a story that we do know is true, which is that Mirant is potentially selling itself. This is a very large independent power producer. You may remember it from some time back when it made that bid for NRG, remember? And then its own shareholders said, what are you doing? Don't do that. Well, both stocks actually have soared, Mirant among them, and yet many people believe the value is above that. Why put yourself up for sale? I've been hearing on this one, there is a lot of private equity interest in Mirant. The company appeared to decide that, hey, you know what? We believe, again, having had conversations with people familiar with the situation, there is a belief that there will be interest in private equity and potentially strategic interest as well. And the best way to access that interest and maximize shareholder value is to put itself up for sale, not to sign up a deal with a 50-day go shop. So the company's done just that, saying it can't guarantee that it is going to be sold, but it has no interest in buying anyone, and it is pursuing this. It has hired J.P. Morgan to help it in what it hopes will be a process of sorting through various offers. This company produces about 17,500 megawatts of electricity in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, California, and again, right now selling. Hold on, let me just give you this one thing. I know I got to go. Citigroup saying, for example, that it's selling right now at about 65% of replacement cost to 80% of replacement cost and could go a lot higher. Let's send it back to Mark.
Thank you, David. Up next, it's the kickoff to earnings season, and this is your pregame show. Will the numbers be as down in the mouth as the masses are predicting? Instant analysis straight ahead.
That's right. We have the mouth on this one. And later, what do you call 125 people with a combined $7 billion in investment assets? Well, you call them rich. You call them Tiger 21.
You call them, hi, guy. Hey, pal.
We will speak with them later on today. It's a special show. We'll be back.
You're watching CNBC's Squawk on the Street, live from the financial capital of the world.
All right, we want to show you again the chart for Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. Now, that stock is trading higher. We had headlines just crossed. It's up 4%. We told you they said revenue is going to be down sharply from the fourth quarter, thanks to a sharp drop in selling prices. But the reason the stock is up is the company's also announcing that they're going to have a restructuring, and they say they're cutting their 2007 capital expenditures by $500 million, limiting hiring and cutting discretionary expenses. Obviously, you heard Mike Malone talking about the company's specific issues here. But again, the stock up on the restructuring and the $500 million cut in capital expenditures. This is just one part, though, of the broader earnings story. A lot of companies starting to pre-announce, and we've got Alcoa officially kicking off the earnings season tomorrow. First quarter earnings will come from AA after the close of trade. Current estimates right now put growth at a paltry 3.3% for the quarter. Michael Thompson is managing director of global research for Thompson Financial, says don't fear the headline. And actually, what's interesting is we're looking for 3.3% growth from Alcoa. You're looking for 3.3% for the entire S&P 500 this quarter?
That's right.
That sounds dismal.
Well, it's not the numbers that we've been accustomed to after 14 consecutive quarters of double-digit earnings growth. But what we do know about the first call mean is that it is in static, and that what we typically see is the expectations between the last estimate and the actual numbers, somewhere historically about 3%. If you just take a look at the 28 companies, or rather 6% of the S&P that have reported so far, they have beaten by an average of over 13%. Now, I know that's not a big sample, but even if we come in the 3 to 4% surprise, you're talking about, you know, something on the order between 6 and 8% when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.3 sounds like a classic setup for an upside surprise. It's just too low. Grant you, maybe the economy is slowing down, but with employment as strong as it is, it figures that earnings are going to be stronger than 3%.
Yeah, Mark, I think you're absolutely right. And I think if you look at the next couple of quarters, we have all the trademarks of what looks like a mid-cycle slowdown. What you have is expectation for the next quarter of about 3.5% right now. Then the next quarter after that, it's 6+%. And then you see a jump up to 12%. And then the first quarter of 08, you're now looking at something over 13%. So this fits a classic definition of a mid-cycle slowdown in terms of our corporate earnings.
Usually by now, we've had a lot of what are called pre-announcements, companies coming out generally and warning you when things are going to be worse than people think. It has appeared that it has been quieter on that front than usual. Am I right? And if so, is that a good sign or a bad sign?
Well, there's one thing that's a little bit ominous out there, and that is that the number of negative pre-announcements to positive pre-announcements has been considerably higher than normal. We're typically seeing for every two negatives, 1 positive. We're seeing something more like 3 negative for every 1 positive now. Silver lining to that is that there's just far fewer companies saying anything positive. That's so speculation why that is. But I think there's trepidation on behalf of corporate management to commit to anything right now. They're watching this economy very carefully. And I think, again, it's the age-old, lower the hurdle, make sure you beat the bar.
I'd like to return to this issue of the analysts seeing an upturn after a couple of quarters. Is there any real basis to that, or is that just wishful extrapolation?
Well, I hope it's more than wishful extrapolation. I think what you see at Thomson, we spent a lot of time trying to understand where these margins are coming from, and we're never ceased to be amazed by the fact that they keep wringing costs out of the infrastructure. In other words, improvements of the margins on the cost side. And I think that's a function of globalization, which is a big topic. You can talk about it for hours. But also, there could be a sort of traction that the economy is sustainable. The economy is sustainable, and perhaps they're in that sweet spot. Inflation remains benign enough that the Fed doesn't have to take rates up. Fed doesn't really have to cut. You still have low unemployment. The underlying fundamentals look pretty good.
All right, Michael, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Michael Thompson, Thompson Financial. Final countdown of the opening bell right on the other side of the break. We're back. We're live at the New York Stock Exchange, less than 30 seconds before the opening bell. Futures pointing higher. Higher. I just want to say one thing about the jobs report from last Friday. This recovery, everyone's been complaining, not enough jobs being created. That was largely because of the productivity revolution that we've been going through with software, with the internet, etc. I think that Friday jobs report was very, very significant. If this recovery now starts generating 180,000, 200,000 jobs, we've entered into a new phase of the economy. Only time will tell.
If it continues to add 180. Right. Yeah, right.
Still, I found that report very, very interesting. All right, the opening bell's here at the big board. Broadridge Financial Solutions, ticker BR, celebrating its recent spinoff from automatic data processing. At the NASDAQ, the ambassador of Australia. Put another shrimp on the barbie, mate.
That's right, koala bear. All right, let's get to our market reporters. Mary Thompson is with us at the big board. Or kangaroo. Hi, Mary.
Good morning, Aaron. We have a higher open for U.S. stocks today and a higher open for AMD. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 11 points in early trading. Advanced Micro Devices about 15 minutes ago coming out and saying, you know what, first quarter revenue is going to be below expectations because of lower average selling prices in its computer solutions unit. Nevertheless, the company said it's also cutting expenses by $500 million, capital expenditures by $500 million. That's given a lift to its stock despite that revenue weaker outlook on revenue. Railroads expected to rally today. American Home Mortgage expected to retreat. It was down about 21% in pre-market. Let's start with railroads. So up on the news that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has taken a stake in 3 railroads, 2 of them unnamed, but we do know he has taken a 10.9% stake in Burlington Northern Santa Fe. American Home Mortgage cutting its first quarter outlook, its full year outlook, and also its dividend. The Real Estate Investment Trust blaming a sharp downturn in the secondary mortgage market as well as the mortgage securities market for those lower lower outlooks. We are seeing strength in some of the chemical names. This on news that Dow Chemical is up on report of a possible $50 billion takeout of the company. Dow Chemical also up on that news, trading in sympathy with Dow Chemical. A couple of other things we want to mention. Morant, which of course is a utility, saying that it is exploring strategic alternatives. It is getting a lift in pre-market from that news. And then Kroger, in a letter to employees, the company's CEO shooting down rumors that the company is going to be an LBO target. He says management has no interest in this. Now let's head to the NASDAQ and Rebecca Jarvis. Rebecca?
Hey, thanks, Mary. Yes, well, they've wanted access to the online multiplayer games market, and now they've got it. I'm talking about Electronic Arts buying a 19% stake for about $200 million in the Nine. The shares are up 0.3% this morning. We're also hearing of a new MP3 player, and it's going to be brought to you by Yahoo and SanDisk in a partnership. It will be wireless. Yahoo shares up 0.2%. SanDisk shares up 0.8%. Dell shares, on the other hand, you know, you're not going to need that PC for their MP3 player. Well, Dell shares are up 0.4%. Pacific Crest upgrading that name today. And Apple shares also up 0.4%. The company announcing that they have sold 100 million iPods since the launch in November of 2001. Adobe shares off 0.3%. They've announced they're doing a 20 million share buyback program. And I also want to draw your attention to Intel shares that are up 1.5%. You heard from Aaron at the top of the hour that AMD is lowering its guidance for Q1. However, Intel shares up 1.5%. And Dendrian, it's the biggest mover here today, the most active, up 11.6% right now. Shares at $20.15. On that note, we're going to head to Sharon Epperson at the NYMEX.
Well, we mentioned to you that Iran's vice president has said that they are enriching uranium at an industrial scale. And so now we're waiting to hear from Iran's president about what the country's nuclear plans are. He's expected to make an announcement later today. The markets will be watching that very carefully. Right now, we're seeing oil prices still under $64 a barrel, but off of their lows, their overnight lows. We're noticing that hedge funds and large speculators seem to think that oil prices are going to rise. If you look at the latest commitment of traders report, we're seeing the largest net long positions that we've seen in more than 6 months here at the NYMEX, so that's significant. Also, we're following the gas exporting countries forum that's going underway in Qatar right now. Algeria's energy minister, according to Wire reports, saying that over the long run we may see a gas-type OPEC, but the New York Times reporting today that Iran and Qatar both deny that they are trying to form a gas cartel. Now to Rick Santelli, who's standing by in Chicago. Rick.
Thanks, Sharon. Well, let's look at all the maturities and look at Friday/today, hovering close to the same yields, how high these yields are. In a 2-year note, about 5 weeks. If you look at a 5-year note, 6 weeks. If you go to the 10-year notes, about 8 weeks, and a 30-year bond, 9 weeks since we've seen these yields. And of course, we all know that debate whether stocks can withstand higher interest rates based on strong data, in this case from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Well, at least at this point, the answer is yes. Iran's nuclear day, we heard those headlines from Sharon, making some of the traders down here very, I don't know, a little bit high anxiety as they continue to watch, but crude oil is still down. As for the week, yes, we have some supply in the form of 10-year Treasury inflation-protected securities, but the minutes Wednesday will be one of the central banking highlights, along with BofJ, Bank of Japan's 2-day meeting starting today with an announcement tomorrow, and Thursday, European Central Bank meets to decide if they're going to raise interest rates, all important for the currencies, and the dollar did garner a bit of a bid from Friday's data. Now let's go to Bob O'Brien and go at Cliffs.
Thanks very much, Rick. Daimler Chrysler comes into today's trading session at a 6-year high, but it's backing off a little bit. There are some concerns on the part of analysts that following Kirk Kerkorian's bid, that there could be a little bit of a labor dust-up that makes closing any kind of a deal a little more difficult. SLM, Sallie Mae could get a bit of a bounce here today, not starting off to the upside, but Barron's over the weekend noting that the stock has been pretty brutally sold and said it could be due for about a 10% bounce. Delta Pine and Land posting quarterly results, second quarter below Wall Street's forecast. Guidance for the full year also below forecast. However, not much of a sell-off here. Of course, it's going to be supported by that Monsanto bid. TJX boosting its dividend by 29%. Nothing seems to be following what it should be doing here today in terms of fundamentals. Boosting dividend to 9 cents a share from the previous 7 cents. And Coca-Cola, its third largest bottler, has announced plans that it's going to turn many of its vending machines into cashless technology. USA Technologies, USAT, is the ticker providing some of the technology. That should give the stock a little bit of a lift today. We'll see whether or not folks decide they want to pay for their soft drinks with a credit card. Let's go back to Mark and Aaron at the NYSE.
Soft drinks with a credit card.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. No, I don't want my kids to be able to do that. Anyway.
Exactly.
Interesting day. The bad news is interest rates are significantly higher. Yield on the 10-year is 6.5 basis points higher. The good news is oil's down about 3/4 of a buck.
Right, and we're seeing stocks try to rally. Keep in mind the Dow is 76 points or so away from that level before the sell-off. We're up about 14 right now. One thing I wanted to mention briefly, metals, take a look at them. Copper up again today, 5-month high. We've got a lot of these metals rising by their limits overseas in Asia before we even start trading here. Things like zinc. So we're continuing to see a lot of strength in base metals.
That will scare the inflation hawks.
Right, but it also may say, look, the global economy is humming along just fine. So it's an interesting conundrum.
Yep. All right, what do we got coming up? Let me check here.
Windmills.
Thomas Windmill, president and portfolio manager at the Midas Funds, who says buy on panic and trade hard on hard assets like real estate, gold, and paper.
Rock, scissors, paper.
Sounds that way.
All right, plus admission ticket into one of the world's premier and most exclusive idea-sharing groups. You have to have $10 million to join, and a lot of those folks have, and they make investment decisions. You're going to want to know where these rich guys and gals are putting their money. We'll be right back here on Squawk on the Street. Welcome back. Time to get to our street cap on this Monday. Barclays' $80 billion deal talks for ABN AMRO could face a stumbling block. The Wall Street Journal this morning reporting the Dutch bank wants greater assurances that a Justice Department probe of ABN money transfers can be resolved beforehand. Meantime, the AFL-CIO targeting Verizon CEO Ivan Seidenberg. The nation's largest union saying it will vote against the phone company's compensation committee because Seidenberg received more than $109 million over the past 5 years, despite a total shareholder return of negative 5%. And speaking of executive pay, Occidental Petroleum's chairman and CEO, Ray Irani, brought home more than $400 million last year, one of the biggest single-year compensation payouts in the history of corporate America. But there were a lot of options built up over the years in that number, Mark, just to make sure we're clear.
Yep. Quick check on the markets for you right now. The Dow off to a positive start. Not very impressive, but we're up. That's better than being down for most people. Up 11 points on the Dow. The NASDAQ is up about 1.5. The S&P is also up about 1 1/2. And again, oil is down 65 cents. Our next guest says, buy on panic dips and sell on spikes.